So for so many, looking inside, deeply inside, is a very difficult thing to do, because so many of us carry self-negation in one way or another, either self-hate or self-loathing or, self-judgment, or, anything that denigrates the self. So many have been told to not value themselves, have been put down, belittled, demeaned, abused in so many different ways that as a child we internalize those those judgments, and they become beliefs of I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy, I'm just innately bad, or I'm a failure. A form of almost self-hatred. And so, we may walk around the world for quite a long time carrying that unconsciously and seeking to either try one of two things: to avoid it or to fix it. Both of those, in a way, actually with grace, lead to the same place, which is almost a dead end in some way. Although not necessarily, because they can continue forever. The path of avoiding oneself can carry on for a lifetime, and often does. And so we take our unconscious self-negation all the way to the grave. And then, of course, there's the, seeking to fix oneself, which may well seem to work in some way. You fix some aspect of the self, or, something seems to get kind of resolved for a while, but it's absolutely almost inevitable that on that level, the level of self-fixing, the level of trying to do something about the self that seems to hate itself, that eventually something else emerges. Some part that wasn't seen, some part that wasn't included in the fixing, some part just a bit deeper, some other part of us that is hiding in the shadows, that when there's a clearing or a fixing on a certain level, then it comes out, and so we're almost back to the start. So these two things, avoiding and fixing, maybe eventually, if we fall into a deeper spiritual path, might bring us to the door of opening to go through the self that imagines that it needs fixing, and to actually open to all of that, to open to the pain, to open to the suffering, to open to the self-negation, the self-hatred, and to see what's underneath. Because quite often underneath there is more dark and murky and, existential stuff that is very painful. It can be very painful. And that must come to the surface as well. On this path, nothing is left unloved. Nothing is left unwelcome. No part is left over there. No matter how painful, no matter how horrific, no matter how dark, no matter how, self-negating it is, in many ways there's only one path home. And the only path home is to open to the whole thing. And that can be a journey that, takes us through the many layers of self. Sometimes it can be almost instant, but still there's an integration that might need to happen, and usually does need to happen as this softening happens. But usually it's a more gradual meeting and an ongoing intimacy which is opening to that which we've avoided feeling. This is simply the journey in many ways of opening to whatever it is that wants to be welcomed and wants to come home to the light, us, our conscious awareness being the light that everything wants to come home to. And so at some point, opening and opening and opening to ourselves is inevitable. And this changes us. This changes us slowly, because we, start to become less afraid of the feelings that we've avoided or tried to fix. And we become less afraid and more intimate with the places that we thought we couldn't touch. We become more intimate, more loving, more aware of, who the scaffolding of who we thought we were. And we, upheld this idea of ourselves as something, as this person, either a bad person or even a good person, or a negative person or a dirty person or a guilty person or something. And we start to see through this opening that actually that's a fiction, that's not really who we are. That's not the essential truth of us. And this is not an esoteric and not a transcendent realization. This is actually a very deep and intimate realization of just the very, natural fact of things, that we built a structure of self in order to protect something that hurt, and then we had no idea in many ways what we were doing. And so we built up this idea that we had to walk around the world in this particular way or in that particular way, but all the time there was this unworthiness or self-negation all the time within us. And that the opening to that reveals that was a certain armoring to defend ourselves from pain. Usually, that's the deeper level, after the strategies have been seen through, the games, the patterns, the wheel of how we defend and attack. But underneath that is a deep pain, and an almost existential wound of not feeling like we belong, not feeling like we're welcome here, not feeling like there's a place for us, not feeling like we're worthy of existence, or feeling very alienated from existence. And these are the core experiences, not experiences. These are the kind of core feelings that reveal themselves when this surface level starts to come undone. And this is potentially an extremely painful, but a very poignant and very deep and very intimate meeting with oneself. and with one's existence. This is the purpose in many ways of the deepest spiritual path, is to become intimate with one's existence, not in a way that has stories or narratives or philosophies, but actually just the raw bones of meeting one's simple existence as it is, as it has been, as it will be. And there's such a profound, simple, natural coming home in that sense, that there's a, it takes us way deeper than we previously were when we were trying to endlessly avoid or fix ourselves. This is the point of opening into deeper and deeper aspects of us until eventually the self itself falls open. This is a falling open into existence. And we've got a tremendous fear of that on a certain level because we're rooted in the separate self. But to fall open into existence itself is the deepest trust. Is the deepest trust that we have, because then there's a sense at some point that existence itself is good, and existence itself is holding us somehow and loving us, whatever is happening. And this can't be understood by the mind, and it in many ways can't be explained by the mind. It doesn't make any sense to the rational, logical, argumentative, divisive self. But we just have to kind of taste that for ourselves. This is the intimacy that I speak of. And so there we are. This is the value of being willing to open to that which hurts in us, being willing to open to the self-negation or the self-mistrust or the self-hatred, because it takes us somewhere. It takes us home somehow. Thank you for watching.